Hello, today I want to chat all about feeding your plants. It seems like a little bit of one of those things that when you start to get into gardening, you're watering your plants, you're doing everything, and then someone just drops the feeding bomb and you're like, what does that mean? What do I need to do? What products do I need to use? How often do I do it? How much do I need? Etc, etc, etc. So I wanted to just chat through how I feed my plants and when I do it. So generally, why do we feed plants? Because if seedlings have been sitting in like trays or pots for quite a while, these obviously needed pricking out and potting on a little bit sooner, but they can start to go yellow, they start to lose their nutrients. And if you think about it, a plant this big is going to have roots that are going to be completely filling this area, and they're going to have soaked up all the nutrients and all of the things to keep them growing. So they're very similar to humans. If we didn't feed ourselves all the right nutrients, then we start to feel a bit poorly, and that's the same for our plants. Generally, we start to feed them with a liquid feed, and I recommend doing that once a week with a dilute feed. By diluting it down, what you're doing is letting, as the roots take up the water, they're also taking up these tiny, tiny particles of nutrients. I'm not going to get too scientific, but there are basically 3 different elements you want to look out for on the back of your liquid feeds. They are NPK, and we call it the NPK ratio, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And nitrogen supports all the leafy growth, so it's brilliant for, as a feed for lawns as well as like when we're growing our seedlings, we obviously want them to put on leaves. We don't yet want to do flowers. Phosphorus is really good for getting the roots to grow, and then potassium is really good against preventing diseases, and you'll get different ratios for different times of year. So a tomato feed, for example, will be higher in the later percentages because you want to create it to flower and protect against disease, whereas at this time of year, when we're autumn sowing and our seedlings are in our trays, we want to encourage them to grow lots of nice green leafy growth, which is why we do nitrogen, which is generally a seaweed food. But you can also get kind of natural fertilizers, which are organic. So this one's from Natural Grower. I've been using it, and you can see the bottle's a bit dusty because I've been had a bit using it lots and lots and lots in and out of the garage. But yeah, it says here, Natural Growers products are approved, organic, and completely natural. Our liquid fertilizer is concentrated and once diluted can be poured around the base of plants or pots in the garden to be quickly absorbed as a potent source of feed. So this has got everything you need in it. It then also has the NPK ratio. So this one has obviously nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, so all in different percentages. So this is a good one to use all year round. So we can feed our seedlings, so these obviously anything that's in pots at this time of year. When we start to get to like November, December, there's not much point feeding them because they will start to slow down as the light levels go down. But then once it starts again in sort of February, March time, again doing a weekly feed will be really important, particularly for anything that we've autumn sown, because it lives sat in the greenhouse for a long time. Compost generally has nutrients for like 4 to 6 weeks. So after anything that's been in a pot more than 4 weeks, I would definitely start to do a dilute seaweed feed. If your seedlings are really, really small, or example something like this, then you don't need to feed them yet, only when they've been in there for 4 to 6 weeks. You don't want to feed them too early, just let them get to sort of a few centimeters high before we start feeding them. So yeah, how do we do it? So every single bottle will have different instructions, so make sure that you follow the instructions on the bottle, but generally this process is the same for everyone. So this says mix 2 capfuls of liquid fertilizer with 4 litres of water in a watering can. So this watering can is 4 litres. It's kind of the standard watering can size. Obviously if you've got a smaller one, maybe only put 1 capful in. If you've got more, then obviously do it more. So you can see it's kind of got this horrible, it looks really rubbish to be honest, it looks like poo, sloppy poo, and it absolutely stinks, but it is brilliant for our plants. So again, 2 capfuls, so I'm going to put 1 in there, 2 in there, and it's better if you wear gloves. I never do, I never follow the instructions, but you should. So I'll pop that in there, and then I've got my watering hose ready. So again, just mixing it up in there and keeping it mixed as you go until you fill it all the way to the top. Once you've filled up your watering can full of water and mixed it in together, some people use a cane stick to mix it up. Make sure that you then water any seedlings or pots before you then feed it. The reason for this is because feed is like not cheap, but it's something extra we pay for, so we don't want to waste any of the product. If you have a large pot, say with lots of pansies and different bits on top, and then you go straight with the feed, a lot of the feed is just going to run all the way through and come out the bottom like the pot is peeing itself. Whereas if you water it with a hose or clear water with a watering can first, it just makes sure the whole pot is moist, it's got all of that absorption, and then feed it, and it will just make your feed go a little bit further. So that's a top tip for you. So at this time of year, we feed any seedlings that have been in pots for longer than 4 weeks, anything that's a couple of centimetres tall, nothing too small, and then we also can feed anything that's kind of hanging on in there with flowers. So any of our kind of like displays for autumn can do with a feed to keep them flowering. Things like pansies and violas all the way through winter would love to have a weekly dilute feed like this. You can obviously make your own sort of feeds, and I'll be doing lots of this with comfrey and stuff next year, so you can follow along in spring. But get yourselves a bottle of any type of feed. It could be seaweed feed or an organic fertilizer feed like this one, which is fab, and you can make sure that you have stronger, healthier and wonderful plants for next year. If you've got any other questions about watering or feeding, then definitely let me know. I'm more than happy to help. Thanks for watching.